G'day and welcome to another smashing edition of the RDFNL Netball Show. Thanks to Ontime Delivery Solutions. My name's Yeendy. I'm joined by Tara Murray from the Star Weekly. Thanks so much for coming on board again.
Thanks for having me.
Certainly a big weekend in netball that we had, and things are really starting to shape up as we get ready for a big round of netball this weekend.
This weekend coming could be the most interesting round of netball for the whole entire year.
We're going to build up in the anticipation with that one as we have a glance through the brilliant notes here. For those who obviously you might be able to see the paper. The notes here are brilliantly crafted. We'll dissect all the other games from last weekend. We had Macedon and Broadford. Macedon too strong by 40 goals.
That's no surprise there. You've obviously got a side full of VNL players, and then a side I don't think Broadford has any, or if they do, they've only got one VNL player. So there's a lot of difference between these sides, and Macedon obviously winning by 40 goals, not surprised. For the Cats, they threw a few players around, so they're trying different positions. You had Ashley Coxhell came up from B grade to play as that third shooter to give her a bit of an experience there with Amy Carroll not playing again, and I'm not sure whether Amy will be back this season, so obviously they need to look for a third shooting option, and it was sort of switching it all around there. Ali Black in goal attack was the Kangaroos' best, and they switched a few players around too, so for them it's a learning curve this season. Obviously we all know that they lost Millie Brock early in the season, so that makes a big difference to that squad, but it's about learning for all these players and that development. And look, they've got a side back up and going this year. It's about building that they have one in 3, 4, 5, 6 years time. Exactly,
the foundation blocks have been built there. Romsey and Riddle played off in arguably the match of the season.
It was a brilliant match. Obviously Romsey's played in a couple of close ones. They had a draw a few weeks ago against Melton Centrals, and this time they got over the line by 1 goal, so I managed to get out there and watch that game. It was a little bit up and down. I thought Riddle was the better team in the first half, but it didn't really show on the scoreboard. There was only a couple of goals difference, and then that third quarter Romsey managed to get the game on their pace, so they managed to slow it down a little bit, and they got out to a decent lead. I think it was out to 5-6 goals at least in that second half before Riddle made a really late comeback and got it back to within 1 goal, so they weren't able to get over the line. It was a really important win for Romsey after having those close losses. They're in a good position. They're in the top 4, and they've played 1 less game than everyone else but Diggers Rest, so it sits them in a good position heading forward.
They're definitely right, and also they had another player casually making her return through B grade. Hope Evans had a nice little outing on recovery from an knee injury.
It is. I had a chat to Hope afterwards, and she was ecstatic to be back out there. She said she's missed being out on the netball court. She said as for where she plays this season, she needs to get fit, and she's happy to play in B grade. If they need her in A grade, she's happy to step up there too. But we had a good chat after the game, and she was thrilled to be back out there. I think she played 3 quarters and could have quite easily played the whole game, but they had a few players on the bench they wanted to rotate through.
Sensational, fantastic effort by her, one of the league stalwarts. Wallen just held off a defiant and emerging Melton Central's outfit by 3 goals.
Obviously, yeah, in the end it was the third quarter was the difference when Wallen won that 14-8. So Central came late, but as we saw in the Riddle Romsey game, they weren't able to close the gap. So it's putting Centrals in a position they're not used to. They're down towards the bottom of the ladder. It's something we haven't seen for a number of years, where for Wallen it keeps showing that they are a side that will likely play finals this year. You had Georgia Boquet was best for the Magpies, and she's been brilliant this year. She's on a VNL list, so she's getting experience against those higher levels, and yeah, they're well cemented in the top 6 now.
Probably a good win that for Wallen they needed to have against and with a team that really wanted to challenge them too.
I think so. Obviously they've been in a lot of close matches. That's probably been the one thing we've seen about Wallen this year. I think they were in a close one with lost one to Riddle by a goal. They're in a close one with Macedon. They won against Broadford by a goal. So this will be good to get another win in those close ones.
Diggers Rest a touch too strong for Woodend Heskett.
For Diggers Rest, it's about getting back on the winners list. They've lost a couple in a row, so they dropped matches to Rupertswood and Macedon in their last 2 rounds, and they switched things around a little bit. They brought Alicia on in goal attack to start. Shelby moved out into wing attack, and then they switched things around throughout the game. It was a dominant performance for Woodend. They had no Tara Burnap again, which really does hurt them because she is their key target down in the goal circle, and Sarah Duff has shown her flexibility. She's still playing under 19s. I think she can still play under 17s.
Yeah, you're right.
And she's generally a mid-quarter, but she's had to step into goals in both the 19s and A grade in the absence of Tara, and has really shown her flexibility. Yeah,
definitely star of the future there. In the final game, Rupertswood held off defiant Rockbank outfit by 9 goals.
It is. I spoke to Rockbank coach Lizzie Masterson on the weekend, and she said they were thrilled with that result. So they're sort of showing they're getting closer to these top sides, where last year they were competitive against Rupertswood but weren't able to put it on the scoreboard. With this one, they were within 4 goals until late in the last quarter, and there was a couple of turnovers. They're starting to get all those connections working. So I think the goal circle connection was one that was going to take a time, because you've got a new combination who haven't played together, and I know Rianne, their goal attack out there, she's obviously played under Lizzie in other competitions, but the last 3 years she's had 3 different goal shooters, so it does take a little bit of time. So they're getting used to that, and look, they got a couple of players back from injury as well. For Rupertswood, they got the win. It wasn't pretty. I think there was a lot of turnovers. They were missing Amy Stars, one of their goal-in options, which did decrease their flexibility a little bit, but they got the solid win, and that's what they'll be after.
Sensational. As we rip into this weekend's games, as you highlighted before, you build up the anticipation. We've got some cracking games coming up.
We've got the top 4 sides all play each other, and then you've got 5th and 6th playing 7th and 8th. So, and throw into the mix, there's Victorian Netball League on Sunday. So this is going to impact, not only is there some cracker matches, most of these sides are going to have players who are either not playing, they're on limitations, or you might have some that are allowed to play. So that throws in...
We might see some upsets here.
Possibly. I think there possibly could be a couple of upsets, because there's some teams that could be missing 4 or 5 players.
Exactly. Let's turn our attention to the first game. Broadford v Wood End Heskett, your tip.
I tip Wood End.
Yep.
Obviously, this is probably one game that's not affected by VNL. So you've got these 2 sides are the ones down towards the bottom of the ladder. So I think it'd be confidence boosting for whichever side win. If Wood End Heskett get Tara Burnett back, that's a big key for them as well in that circle. But I think Wood End probably has shown a little bit more this season that I think they'll get the win.
Macedon and Romsey.
This will be interesting. Macedon is going to be one of these sides that is affected by VNL the most. So obviously they've got Chloe Wilson, you've got Janelle Birch, you've got Caitlin Alfreco, you've got Ty Coppinger. So you've got 4 players there in it, and obviously if they've got no Amy Carroll as well, they're going to have a big mix there. I know Chloe and Janelle normally with Sovereigns are only allowed to play half a game the week before, so you've got that. And then Romsey, you've got Monique Clark and Kaylee Armstrong. So it's going to be an interesting mix on how these 2 sides go. It wouldn't surprise me if Romsey got over the line. I think they've got a couple of players out. If Kaylee plays a half, that's sort of only 1.5 players, and they've got a little bit of depth on that bench as well. So it's kept their goal in circle intact, and you've got defenders who can move around for them. So it wouldn't surprise me if Romsey actually got over the line.
Yep, I'm with you on this one, and a bit of a big win there. Rockbank and Diggers Rest.
Look, I think Rockbank want to get this match. They think they can win this match. Obviously, Diggers Rest could be missing a couple of players. Carly Harrison, who's been one of their best players this season, is a VNL player. Annika Shearer is another one that plays up for the Sovereign, so she's probably only going to be limited to a half, if that as well. So it'd be the time if Rockbank is to get a scalp against one of these top sides and to move into that top 6 would be against like a Diggers Rest this week when they're missing. But I think Diggers Rest have still got too much depth.
I'll back Rockbank just on a bit of an upset here. Just throw a spanner in the works. Wallen and Rupo.
Another one, both of these sides have got a lot of VNL mix, and both these sides are in the top 4 as well. So I think full strength, this match could have been quite interesting. I think even with having the VNL players out, it will make it a little bit interesting. I think both sides have got 3 players, could have 3 players out. Whether they're fully half, I'm not sure at this point. But I think Rupertswood's experience is probably going to be the little bit of the difference. You look at it, their goal in circle, if Amy Stars is back, you've still got Amy and Abby in goals. And in the defensive line, you've still got Lara Keating and Beck Anstey. So you've still got a lot of experience in that side. It's whether or not Wallen can cover that, their outs like Rupertswood can.
Yep, I'm going to back Wallen in this one. And the final game, we've got Melton Centrals and Riddle. Your quick tip on this one?
Melton Centrals. Riddle could quite easily be one of those sides affected by VNL again. Beck Caldwell, the 2 close sisters, Maddie Woolmeyer are all part of VNL side. So they're missing all of those 4 players. You've got Centrals who will probably be only missing Mel Wed, that I think they might get over the line. Yep,
I'm with you. Melton Centrals to win that one. Thanks to Ontime Delivery Solutions for their great support. Tara, thanks so much for your support, and the Star Weekly team as per usual. Look forward to catching up with you next week. We look forward to catching up with everyone next week.
Thanks for having me.